Hello everybody, this is Ryan, and I'm going to go over today with you how to use vertical lookup in Excel or Google spreadsheets to build a data set. If you go to your assignment sheet, which you'll look here, you'll see it's up here. You'll go to Module 11, you'll see there's a data set. And that's what we're going to work on. And there's some directions in there on what you should do to make the data set your own. You should go out and make a copy of it, and there's some directions in there when it comes up. So directions to use this data set, I would take a look at that. And there's also directions in your module sheet on kind of what you should do and how you should make a copy of it. There's also a key. I'm going to tell you what the terms mean. There's a red tab, and that's your actual students. This is where we'll build our data set. And some features about this that I want to point out to you is that there's a student number in here. This student number in column C is generated from a student information system. The state number is a number that all students are given by the state, and that follows them from school to school. And you'll see their first, their last name, and their grade level. So what I'm doing is I'm trying to model for you a way to build a data set. This works from the classroom level all the way through the school and district level. As part of my job, I build data sets for schools and for teachers and things like that. These are some of the techniques that I use. Some other tabs that we have here, we have demographics, which we've been talking about quite a bit. So on all these kids, we have their demographics, and we have data on that. We want to kind of connect those up. We have some map data with some students. You'll notice the same student number here. It matches up to the student number in the 2016-17 student list, the red tab. We have spring 16 math data. And we also have some additional data here, like we have state assessment data. And notice the state ID number is there on the kids. That's the key to all this and be able to match things up, is having a consistent state number from sheet to sheet to sheet, or from data set to data set, so you can bring it all together really easily. We also have some teacher data that we'll use as well. So the tool that I'm going to use today is called vertical lookup, and I'm demonstrating this in Google spreadsheet. The techniques that I'm going to show you also work in Excel. The reason I'm doing things in Google spreadsheet is because everybody in the program at Fort Hays has a Gmail account, and we all have a Google spreadsheet. So I need a consistent platform. So let's kind of get started here. So what you're going to do is you're going to make a copy of it, and I'm not going to make a copy. I guess I could make a copy of it and follow the directions as stated for you. So I'm going to make a copy of it. So I'm going to go to File. I'm going to make a copy. And I'm going to name it. And I gave me a naming protocol in there. I gave your name. So I'll put my name in there. It'll be Ryan Cargilla. With a dash. And then I have AEP 858. And I have spring 17. And then I'm going to add a VA to it because that's our section number. And I'm just going to click OK. So now I have a copy of this data set that I can use to then build and practice and things like that. And I want you to understand this data set, we're going to continue to build it. So once you started it, you can continue to use it for the next 3 assignments or so we'll do on this data set. So our goal today is, as far as the assignment says that you're going to build a data set and you're going to add 4 columns. You're going to add one for ESOL, one for ethnicity, one for spring math, MapSest, and one for their 15-16 teacher. I'm going to kind of walk you through this so you can see how it works with vertical lookup. We'll kind of model it to you so you can practice as you go through it. So you'll notice our first tab here is students, and this is where we're going to add students. So I want to add an ESOL column here. So in column G I typed in ESOL, and my ESOL data for these kids sits in the demographics tab. You'll see it right here in column H. And you'll notice I have a common number. So I have student number here, and that is, so column H is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 columns away from the student number I'm using to match data to data. So that's where the vertical lookup comes in. So vertical lookup, here's how it works. You click in your first cell, you do equals, and type in VLOOKUP, and you'll notice that vertical lookup pops up. Click on it and you get this little pop-up window. The first one is your search key. That's what I'm going to look for. So I'm going to look for the student number. So I got the student number, I hit a comma, And then I'm going to do the range. Okay, where is the data located? The data is in the Demographics tab. So I'm going to the Demographics tab, and it's right here. So I'm going to start with the first column, which contains my key. And I'm going to highlight all the way over to ESOL, and I'm going to highlight all the way down to the bottom of my data set. You notice it's quite long. So there's my bottom. And then what I want to do is I want to fix that range, so I'm going to put $ around my letters. $signs around the A, and $signs around the H. Okay, so what that does is that fixes my range. It's always going to look at that range of data. My index is going to be how far over is that data. And remember we counted from column A where my key was all the way to H, and that was 8. So I'm going to type in 8. And I want an exact match, so I'm going to type in false. And close off the parentheses and hit enter. And notice now how that's been populated with ESOL. So now I want to fill down this column. There's a couple ways you can do that. Probably the easiest way is to click on the first on the cell, and then just drag straight down to highlight all the columns, and then press Control D. And you'll notice that it'll then populate the whole column. And you'll see there that it has there's the formula, so you can see the vertical lookup, you can see the C2, that's where my data was. You'll see the Demographics tab is where my data is located that I'm trying to match. A2 to 185 is the range of the data, and notice the $signs around the letter A and the letter H. That fixes my range so it doesn't change. The 8 represents, in the Demographics tab, how many columns over we are from the key. So there's my key, like right there. So I'm going to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And that's why there's an 8. And I want an exact match, so that's why there's a word false in there. So that's the first demonstration of this formula. So let's do it again. Let's do it this time. Let's go through and let's do it for ethnicity. So I'm going to put ethnicity in there. This time I'm going to go a little slower, and I'm going to let you do it, and we're going to kind of walk through it together. Okay, so what's the first step? The formula is going to be vertical lookup. So let's type in vertical lookup. So V lookup. Okay, once it pops up like that, take your mouse, click on it. Remember, the next stage is to look for your key. What's our common key from sheet to sheet? It's going to be the student number. So click on student number. And then you got to think to yourself, you do a comma, and think to yourself, where's my data located? What's the range? Well, ethnicity is another demographic, so we're going to look at the Demographics tab. And this time, the demographics is located in J. So it's going to be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So I'm going to highlight all this data. So highlight all this data. And I do a little shortcut at this point. I like to highlight it all sometimes. So I'll just click on the formula bar, and I'll just add in 2 more zeros to make it 18,000. That just puts it way down the sheet, so I know I have all my data. Now remember, I think it was what was the number? It was 10, wasn't it? Let's count again. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 10. And then I want an exact match on that student number, so I'm going to type in the word false. Now there's one more thing I have to do here. Remember, I want to fix the range. And that's where I put the $signs around the letters in my range. Just like that. So that's what your formula should look like. And when you're done, press enter. And you'll notice it'll populate your ethnicity. Now, before I showed you how to fill down here, where I told you I selected the column and then I filled down, there's another interesting way to do it. You see that little box in the corner? If I highlight my cell, click on the cell, you get a box. And then there's that little box in the corner. If I take my mouse and I put my pointer on that box so I get the little plus sign and I double click, it populates my data automatically. So that's basically how a vertical lookup works. The key to all this data combining into sets is this common number. And you can use a student number, you can use a state student number, whatever you want, but the key is that that number has to exist in the sheet that you're starting with, that you're building, and also the sheet that you're pulling from, or the data set you're pulling from. Remember, here's my student number. Here, if I go to my demographics, here's my student number. The next thing you have to put in here, you have to put in some map beta. So if I go over to the math map beta, you'll notice my student number is an A, so there's my common number, and I can pull this data over there if I wanted to. And the same thing goes for teacher data. Here is the student number, here's the teacher, here's the class. And you can pull that data over by connecting it with this number right here. So that's vertical lookup. This video, I hope, this video will serve as a supplement. We'll walk through this information again during our hangout on Tuesday. So I look forward to that. Feel free to watch this as many times as you want. I think it's a very good video, very helpful. You can take it slow. You can back up and go forward as many times as you need to. But thanks a lot for joining me. This is Ryan.